There comes a moment in every relationship with an avoidant person where two invisible lines cross simultaneously, creating a psychological chasm that can never be bridged. For the partner, it's the silent moment when hope finally dies and they stop believing change is possible. For the avoidant person, it's the terrifying realization that they've pushed away someone irreplaceable and that their usual tactics no longer work. Both cross their own point of no return, but in opposite directions, creating a tragic irony where understanding arrives too late to repair anything. The partner shifts from fighting for the relationship to protecting themselves from it, while the avoidant person realizes their control over the dynamic has evaporated.
The first warning sign, when love becomes labor. The transformation from effortless affection to exhaustion happens so gradually that no one recognizes it until the relationship has become a second job that nobody applied for. What began as natural care slowly morphs into strategic emotional management, where every interaction requires careful calculation. The partner finds themselves constantly monitoring the avoidant person's mood, adjusting their own needs to match their fluctuating emotional capacity. They learn to suppress their excitement about good news, because their partner might withdraw from their enthusiasm. They moderate their disappointment about canceled plans because expressing pain triggers defensiveness. They become experts at reading micro-expressions, analyzing message tones, predicting moods with the intensity of a meteorologist tracking hurricanes. Loving an avoidant person feels like tending a garden in hostile soil. No matter how much care is given, nothing seems to grow consistently. Meanwhile, the avoidant person lives their own hell. Maintaining the relationship requires them to battle their nervous system daily. Each relationship milestone feels like climbing a mountain, while carrying emotional baggage they can never put down. They force conversations about feelings that make them want to crawl out of their skin, participate in relationship rituals that trigger their commitment fears while trying to hide their internal panic. This intensive dynamic creates resentment on both sides. The partner becomes bitter about having to minimize their needs without receiving the same consideration in return. The avoidant person resents the pressure to provide emotional availability that doesn't come naturally to them. The relationship becomes a constant project rather than a source of comfort. The silent death of hope. Hope doesn't die with a crash or fanfare. It extinguishes silently like air slowly escaping from a tire until the day you realize it's completely deflated. For the partner, this moment comes after countless cycles of disappointment followed by renewed optimism. This death occurs in layers like grief, processed repeatedly. First dies the hope that they'll spontaneously become emotionally available. Then dies the hope that consistent communication will create lasting change. Next dies the hope that their love will be powerful enough to heal their attachment wounds. Finally, dies the hope that patient waiting will be rewarded. For the avoidant person, their own hope dies when they notice their partner fighting for the relationship with less intensity. They sense the shift in their energy, less urgency, less emotional reactivity to their withdrawals. The hope that dies for them is the unconscious belief that their partner's love is unconditional and infinitely patient. The moment you stop fighting. The most telling sign that a relationship has crossed the point of no return isn't an explosive argument, but the strange calm that settles when one person stops engaging with destructive patterns. For the partner, this shift manifests as a silent withdrawal of emotional investment, born from deep exhaustion that has reached its natural conclusion. They stop initiating conversations about problems because they've accepted that these discussions lead nowhere. They stop explaining their feelings when their needs are ignored because they've understood that understanding doesn't equal caring. The constant emotional labor simply stops. It's their nervous system's natural response to chronic disappointment. The avoidant person experiences this change as a disturbing shift in emotional temperature. Their partner becomes mysteriously peaceful in the face of behaviors that usually triggered discussions. When they withdraw, they're no longer pursued. When they send mixed signals, clarification is no longer sought. The fatal emotional detachment. The most profound shift occurs when the avoidant person's opinions become genuinely irrelevant to their partner's self-esteem. This isn't feigned indifference, but an authentic liberation that comes when someone realizes they no longer need external validation from such an unreliable source. When their avoidant partner criticizes them or questions their choices, they notice the words land without creating the familiar sting of hurt. Approval or disapproval has lost its power to affect their mood or self-perception. Their nervous system has accepted that this person's opinions are not reliable indicators of their worth. This detachment brings unexpected freedom. They stop modifying their appearance or personality to generate positive responses. They make decisions based on their own values. For the avoidant person, this is the terrifying loss of their primary influence. Their usual emotional tactics no longer work. The final recognition. The most liberating and heartbreaking moment comes when the fog of hope lifts, revealing the person with stark clarity. For the partner, this moment represents the death of the fantasized version and the birth of genuine understanding. They see the avoidance patterns not as temporary obstacles, but as fundamental aspects of their personality. This clarity brings the recognition that the limitations aren't personal failures that can be loved away, but genuine constraints on their capacity for intimacy. For the avoidant person, their recognition comes when they realize their partner has stopped seeing them through potential and started seeing them through reality. The inevitable end. Once these realizations crystallize, the relationship enters its final phase. The partner has restructured their emotional relationship, moving from external validation to internal security. The avoidant person realizes they've lost not only their partner, but also their ability to get them back. The point of no return isn't crossed in anger, but in silent clarity and acceptance of who each person truly is. It's the most tragic ending, one where love still exists, but understanding arrives too late to save what has been broken by the very patterns each person used to protect themselves.